Now that dengue cases are rising anew, what could we and the government do? To weigh in on that, we have former health chief and now Congresswoman Janette Garin joining us via Zoom. Good morning. Welcome to Morning Matters. Congresswoman, I think you're on mute.
Oh, apologies
There you
for that.
go.
Thank you
There
for
you go. I can
inviting
hear
me,
you
Gretchen.
now. Okay. We have an outbreak in Quezon City, 56% increase in cases this February. Your reaction to the increasing dengue problem? Could this have been prevented?
Definitely, when infodemic was allowed, or meaning fake medical news was allowed, creating scare against among those who intends to have their children vaccinated against dengue, then it became a major killer for all our preventive measures. Now, the problem, Gretchen, is that people will let us expect that with the 5S strategy, it will be effective. And time and again, the World Health Organization has told us, not only the Philippines, but the global community as well, that dengue has become hyper endemic. In other words, it is present all throughout the year with bouts of epidemics, considering that we have climate change, there's a change in the behavior of mosquitoes, they have been more aggressive. And if we have more cases, it is expected that the virus will mutate. And in this case, what we are thankful is the fact that in the Philippines, we already have trained doctors to handle the case. Unfortunately, the problem there is we are on the curative stage, not the preventive stage, because the strategy that is being forwarded by the Department of Health is only partially effective. Ilang dekada na kasi tayong nananawagan ng paglilinis, pagsusugpo no, ng mga breeding sites ng mosquitoes. Well, these are laudable. This is not enough.
Well, we all do know what happened in 2016 with the Dengvaxia vaccine. In hindsight, what do you think were our learnings from that? What did government do wrong? Did we rush the approvals of the vaccine?
Definitely no. That was the script of those who were behind the fake news propagation. The Dengvaxia scare was actually created to go after the former president, Noynoy Aquino. And the victims of this, of course, were the scientists, vaccinologists like me. We're only a few, and many other public health practitioners. The approval of the vaccine was not rushed, considering that it was done with 7 other countries. At kitang-kita naman na hindi tayo ang pinakaunang nag-approve ng bakuna. It was approved by Brazil and Mexico. Both are actually WHO national regulatory agencies. In other words, they don't do FDA like the Philippines. They really do research and clinical trials. And even the Philippines was part of the clinical trial. But then I believe it started in 2005, the clinical trials, and ended in 2013 or 14, I think. I just forgot the exact year. However, because the environment was very ripe for issues against the former president and the former administration, they cannot find any corruption case against former President Pinoy, and then they ended up using health as an avenue to hit the previous administration. Kasi alam naman natin kapag kalusugan, kapag buhay, syempre talagang takot na takot yung mga magulang at takot na takot yung mga tao. And what is very painful here is that during those time and even after this time, offices that are actually part of the government. That time we had DOJ, we had the Prosecutor General, and very glaring was the Public Attorney's Office. These are government funded or taxpayers' money funded government agencies that were creating the scare, part of the scare. They were hiring non-experts. They were misrepresenting information and facts before congressional and Senate hearings. At yun nga, yan ang nangyari. Unlike, I believe, the other countries have started their vaccination program tumataas ang kaso ng dengue nila, pero naging mild na ito, no? With the hospitals not being congested,
Well,
with
Congresswoman,
almost zero deaths.
we do remember that there were 8 deaths or 8 charges from those families whose children died because of the Dengvaxia vaccine. The Dengvaxia vaccine could cause severe dengue in individuals who had never been previously infected with the virus. I mean, hindi po ano yun, hindi po made up yun. Meron po mga namatay talaga
No,
dahil
Gretchen,
dito sa ano.
that's basically like, I'm sorry, but I have to correct you. When you mentioned 8 children died because of the Dengvaxia, because of the vaccine, that's entirely false. Kaya nga, ang daming nabudol sa announcement na yun. Because this was actually an announcement in France, confined within the medical community, in its application to change the label. So the exact statement was actually in its further trial, consisting of it's the trial for a kit. They were looking for a test kit consisting of 3,000 subjects. So malit yan. Those who have not had dengue yet, no, ang hindi pa nagkasakit ng dengue, tapos nabakunahan at nagkasakit, no, at nahawaan ng dengue, there is a chance of 0.0003% to have severe dengue, which is defined as +1 day of hospitalization, no deaths. Because that's how you do clinical trial. You use the old terminologies. But if you look at the definition in the new terminology, it's not severe dengue anymore. It's just that you cannot use the new terminology. Kasi di ba parang HIV, dati-rati, lahat takot na takot. Pero it came out na mahahawa ka through sexual contact and blood products, not through saliva. In this case, in 2011, the international community changed the definition of severe dengue because and hemorrhagic dengue because we already knew, we have a lot of information more about the illness. So in this case, ang nakalagay doon, for those who have had not dengue yet and you were vaccinated, you are fully protected up to 2.5 years. On the third year, it will slowly decline, so much so that 0.0003% will have the probability of severe dengue in its old definition, which is translated into +1 day of hospitalization. And
Well,
that's why they
Congresswoman,
went further into calculating and quantifying ano bang mga bansa ang kailangan ng testing, anong bansa naman ang hindi kailangan ng testing, like the Philippines. Our seroprevalence is 93%. Ibig sabihin, 93% ng ating mga kababayan ay nagka-dengue na, alam mo man o hindi pa. Because yan ang ipinapakita ng ating datos. Because the dengue is a Philippine product. It was
Congresswoman,
discovered in the Philippines. It kept on mutating the Philippines. It became a Philippine export. And that's basically the fake news that happened previously, Gretchen. Kasi walang boses ang mga scientists. And we were actually amazed by how our words were twisted, how information was actually being cut and spliced. In other words, ito ang naging isang malaking fake news all over the world, and it paved way for many scientists to rethink that we have to get out of the conference rooms, the laboratories, and the research centers and learn how to communicate.
well, the families are actually
And
saying that they
ulitin ko
will
lang, no,
still
there were no
appeal
8
this.
children who died.
Oo.
In fact, there were 8 cases that were dismissed because the Department of Justice realized and we were able to prove that these children were not vaccinated. So number of cases, I can't recall, but I believe it's almost 300. No, 300. Kasi lahat na lang ng batang nabakunahan, kunyari namatay sa appendicitis kasi hindi pinaoperahan, inattribute to Dengvaxia. Yung namatay sa tumor, yung namatay sa leptospirosis, yung namatay sa isang infectious disease na hindi natin pwedeng sabihin, yung nagka-amoeba na hindi dinala sa ospital, hindi ginamot, at nag-hypovolemic shock na sobrang dehydration, Dengvaxia ang ginawang reason. In fact, that was the question. Why was
I
the
do know that
autopsy report of
we
those...
do have deep wounds over this history with Dengvaxia. How do you propose that we go about it now? Meron po bang mga bagong... We have deep
Napuputol.
wounds. We have deep wounds over what happened with Dengvaxia. How do you propose we go about this now? Do we have a new vaccine that is close to getting approved? Or getting FDA approval?
Well, that is now the challenge to the Department of Health. And that is the challenge to our government kasi inalaw nila ang peking balita na mamayagpag nung nakaraang administrasyon. So again, that remains a challenge to them. But on a personal note, and as a vaccinologist, I would recommend that it be allowed even in the private sector. Kasi mali naman na nagkaroon nga ng pamamayagpag, government-funded fake news propagation ang nangyari. Pero kung titingnan natin, bakit magsasuffer pating private patients? We have a lot of patients now going to Singapore and to Thailand simply because of the vaccination. Deep wounds, definitely. Kasi kaming mga public health practitioners and scientists, ang kinaracter assassination. But how about the propagators of fake news? How about those responsible for fake autopsies in the public attorney's office? How about those who mishandled the 2 billion insertion under the public attorney's office for ambulance for case build-up? At yun namang 1 billion taon-taon na inalot para sa kanila kasi kunyari, lahat ng sakit related na lang sa bakuna. Was this used appropriately? Walang accountability eh. And that's the problem in the Philippines. Parang pwede ka, it's okay to be an advocate of something. But if it costs lives, then it's a different matter.
All right, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on the latest dengue outbreak. We have Representative Janette Garin joining us on Morning Matters today.
Thank you, Gretchen.